opposites, but they really are interdependent. And to see that, you have to go all the way forward to Easter. And Easter has always been the most important date in the Christian calendar. It's a time of great celebration and triumph of life over death. But in order to really appreciate this celebration, the Catholic Church felt it was important to have a period of sorrow and penance to prepare for it. Just as to appreciate Christmas, they have a period of Advent to be penitent too. At any rate, they instituted Lent, a period of 40 days in honor of Jesus' 40 days in the wilderness, and Noah's 40 days in the ark, and the Jews' 40 years in the desert. And since Easter is always celebrated on a Sunday, the 40 days has to start with a Wednesday. And it's called Ash Wednesday because ashes symbolize death and repentance. So in effect, Ash Wednesday and Lent were instituted to sort of counter Easter. But eventually people started thinking, well, if we're going to have a 40-day period of fasting and penitence, maybe we should counter that too. So instead of having fasting, we'll have feasting, and instead of penitence, we'll have celebration. And that's how we got Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras was born, not an official saint calendar, but Mardi is French for Tuesday, and Gras means fat. Mardi Gras, or Fat Tuesday, is the day before Ash Wednesday. And in France at one time, they used to have people dressed like priests parading around the streets carrying roast pigs, because once Ash Wednesday came, you couldn't eat meat again until Easter. So Fat Tuesday, or Mardi Gras, was your last blowout before you had to repent. So you go from having this day of celebration, Easter, to a period of penitence to prepare for it called Lent, to a period of celebration to prepare for the penitence, to prepare for the celebration. And I wouldn't be surprised if eventually a new period of penitence will someday be invented to prepare for Mardi Gras, and I'm going to call it Mortification Week. In fact, the word carnival, which is another name for Mardi Gras, comes from carna, meaning meat or flesh, as in, well, carnal desire or carnal knowledge. In reincarnation is taking on flesh again. Chili con carne is chili with meat in it. It's carna, meat, and val, which means farewell. So carnival means farewell to flesh or goodbye meat. Now, this probably sounds a little bipolar, kind of up and down, but I think it reveals an important human truth, that we only appreciate celebration when we have mourning and sadness to compare to it. And that sadness itself we can only endure if we have celebration to temper it with. So it makes sense that you prepare for celebration with sadness and you prepare for sadness with celebration. At any rate, I decided to talk to you about humility today, not just because Ash Wednesday is coming, but because I think UUs, that's Unitarian Universalists, I think we have mixed feelings about humility. Am I right? Yes. Yeah, okay. I thought so. A survey was done some years ago comparing the values of members of different denominations, including Unitarian Universalists. And although it didn't include the value of humility, it did contain some related values. UUs, on average, ranked the words broad-minded, intellectual, and logical much higher than Catholics and Protestants did. Broad-minded, intellectual, and logical. And they ranked forgiving, polite, and obedient much lower. So you can guess where we would have put humility if we'd been asked. But I don't think we are all necessarily that much into vanity or conceit. I think we have questions about humility because we see that what can look like humility is often just a more subtle form of pride. And we tend to believe that honest pride would be better than false humility. At least you know what you're dealing with. The truth is, many of us spend a lot of our lives trying to get other people to think we're good or great. We may do that by bragging about ourselves, but we may do it by trying to appear humble. But we're all doing it, so maybe there's not that much difference. I'm reminded of a Jewish tale about the rabbi who went into the synagogue one day and she knelt down before the ark with a Torah in it. And in sort of a religious frenzy of humility before God, she said, oh God, I am nothing. I am nothing. And the cantor, hearing her, came in and seeing her zeal, knelt down and also said, oh God, I am nothing. And then the shamas, or janitor of the synagogue, came in, and he began beating his breast too. Oh God, I am nothing. And the rabbi looked over to the cantor and said, look who thinks he's nothing. Which brings me to why I'm preaching to you about humility today. You see, I'm not sure it's possible to be intentionally humble, because when you try too hard to be humble, you may end up wearing your humility like a badge. Oh, I'm not very bright, you say. Oh, yes, you are, say others. Oh, I'm just not as competent as you are. Oh, yes, you are. You see, if you put on a humble routine, you not only get other people to compliment you, and they usually will if you put yourself down enough, but you'll also get them to think you're really great for being so humble. I know it's worked for me. Not that I intentionally started out that way with that in mind, but I found that to be true in most cases. The story is told of a Mennonite family who were riding home in their carriage from a church meeting in Franconia, Pennsylvania. Now, the Mennonites make a point of dressing simply at their services, nothing flamboyant or colorful or anything that would make you stand out. Anyway, the Mennonite father said to the mother on the way back, I believe we were about the plainest there. A more personal example is when I was growing up, there was a religious ceremony I liked that happened on Ash Wednesday. We would go to church and the priest would put ashes on our forehead and say, remember, man, that you are dust, or that thou art dust, and unto dust you shall return. And this saying was meant to keep us humble, but I was always really proud of my humility. I was very careful not to let any of the ash fall off my forehead because I wanted to be sure that all my friends and neighbors would see how humble and pious I was. I wanted it to stay there a long time, and I especially wanted to make sure that all my Protestant friends saw it so they'd know what they were missing. And just in case anyone didn't see me on Ash Wednesday, I'd get ashes on the Sunday after too, even though they were really meant for the people who hadn't been able to get to church on Wednesday. You know, humility is a strange thing. Often what passes for it is self-righteousness, which is a kind of pride. The ancient Greek philosopher Antisthenes, who founded the Cynic movement of philosophers, used to advocate a very simple and austere life, and he always dressed with great poverty. And one day Socrates said to him, I can see your vanity, Antisthenes, through the holes in your cloak. And Benjamin Franklin once said, alas, I know if I ever became truly humble, I would be proud of it. This is the kind of humility I've tended to have. I'm not saying all humility is hypocritical or that Ash Wednesday is a dumb idea. Actually, I think it's a rich idea, but far richer than I realized growing up. The word humility comes from the Latin word humus, meaning ground or earth. Humble, human, humane, humanitarian, even humor are all from the same root, humus. We are earthy people, dust to dust, ashes to ashes. That's what we are and shall be. To be humble in the original sense is to realize that we are made up of earth. In the Hebrew Bible, it says that humans were created out of dust from the earth, that God took clay and shaped it into a body and then breathed into it and gave it life. But what's interesting there is that there's a word play between the name Adam, or Adam, which just means human or man, and Adamah, which is the Hebrew word for ground. Adam is created out of the Adamah. It's a little Hebrew pun. The human is made out of earth. And what do you get when you mix a little water with the dirt? Mud, right? You get mud, and the word mud appears to have come from an ancient Indo-European root meaning mother. Mud is our mother. Hello, mother. Here I am at Camp Granada. And our English words, matter and material, are also related. If you take off the last letters of material, you have mater. And if you take matter and you just take out the T, you have mater, which is Latin for mother. As in alma mater, which means bounteous mother. Alms is gifts. And maternal, motherly, Sancta Maria Mater Dei, Mother of God. Or what's the matter? Give me the dirt. All right. Now, some people think it's sad to say, remember you are dust, and unto dust you shall return, because it reminds them that their bodies are going to die someday. But I think it's kind of cool that we are made up of atoms and molecules of dust, because all those atoms and molecules that make up the dirt around us, under us, and the plants and animals around us, and the buildings we live in, and our own bodies, all of that was created billions of years ago in stars. It was created in stars. You see, when a star is winding down, it creates atoms of iron and magnesium and helium, carbon and oxygen and neon, silicon, sulfur, argon, calcium, titanium, chromium, and other kinds of dust, and it throws them out into the space around it. And when enough dust specks start clumping together, they become floating rocks, and eventually asteroids, and finally planets like our own Earth. Our Earth was made from the dust of burnt out stars, and we were made from the Earth. So every atom in our body came originally from the inside of stars. So when I hear, remember that you are dust, and unto dust you shall return, I think, yeah, I'm made of stardust. And the atoms that make up my body are billions of years old, and even when I die, those atoms will go on in some other form. By the way, dust from outer space is still falling on the Earth. And scientists think the Earth gets at least 100 tons of dust from outer space every day. That's about 1 speck of dust per square yard every day. So if you rode to church today, there's a good chance that there's at least 1 speck of dust on your car that came in from an asteroid or a comet or something else from space. So yes, each of us is made of humus. Each of us is of dirt or ash. And this is not a grim thought. It's only grim if you think dirt or ash is bad. And that's one of our problems. Most of us unconsciously see it that way. If we don't like someone, for example, we call them dirt. But it is dirt out of which things grow. If it weren't for dirt, none of us would be alive. Apples and potatoes and rice grow out of dirt. So do beans and bananas and barley. We need dirt in order to eat. Flowers grow out of dirt, so we need dirt for beauty. We build our houses out of dirt. If they're wood, the trees they came from grew from the dirt. If they're brick, the bricks were once clay from the earth. If they're steel, that was mined out of dirt. If they're plastic, that was made from petroleum, which comes from plants which came from the earth. Dirt or earth is what gives us food, beauty, and shelter. And in a way, we know how important this is because sometimes we say things like, I need to feel more grounded. Recognizing that the ground, the dirt, that the thing we walk on is what nourishes us. It's what we sink our roots into. And yet at other times we dismiss the ground, the dirt, we say it's beneath us. Well, it is. It is beneath us. That's why it can hold us up. But why do we think beneath is bad? Why do we refer to an evil person as a low life? Why do we call someone who's immoral base? After all, isn't the base the thing that holds everything up? Isn't the base the foundation? And we call a sneaky person a worm. We call an untrustworthy person the snake, not because worms or snakes have a reputation for being dishonest, but because they crawl around in the dirt and we don't like dirt. We think it's beneath us. Whoops, there I go again. It is beneath us. But the association of evil with down is so strong that if I want to say you did something wrong, I say that was beneath you. And when I want to say things are going well, I say things are looking up. We unconsciously accept that association, which is why hell is always down there and heaven is always up. Some feminist theologians and philosophers are trying to help us see that, because one of the side effects of seeing dust or dirt as bad is that it becomes easy to dismiss our responsibility to the earth. If we keep our eyes up there, we don't see the mess we're making down here, trampling over and poisoning the ground. It's just dirt, we say. Now, I know we're not going to change all our metaphors overnight, but I'd like to read you something that may get you to think about dust and dirt a little differently. It's from Robert Fulghum's first book, All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten, a Unitarian minister who did pretty well in publishing. Anyway, this is how it goes. Moving is a blow to my self-image. I like to think I'm reasonably clean and tidy. But comes that moment after all the furniture and possessions have been removed from my rooms, and I come back to see if I've left anything, and I look at the floor and there's all this stuff around. Behind where the desk was, and behind where the bookcase was, and behind where the bed was, and in the corner occupied by the chest. Stuff. Gray, fuzzy, grotty stuff. Look at all that dirt, I think. I'm not so very nice and clean after all, I think. What would the neighbors think, I think? What would my mother say, I think? What if they come to inspect, I think? I've got to clean it up quick, I think. This stuff, it's always there when I move. What is it? I read in a medical journal that a laboratory analyzed this stuff. They were working on the problems of people with allergies, but their results apply here. Their findings: stuff is made up of particles of wool, cotton, and paper, bug chunks, food, plants, tree leaves, ash, microscopic spores of fungi and single-celled animals, and a lot of unidentifiable odds and ends, mostly natural and organic. But that's just the miscellaneous list. The majority of stuff comes from just two sources: people, exfoliated skin and hair, and meteorites, disintegrated as they hit the Earth's atmosphere. No kidding, it's true. Tons of it fall every day. So in other words, what's behind my bed and my bookcase and dresser and chest is mostly me and stardust. A botanist told me that if you gather a bunch of stuff in a jar and put some water in it and let it sit in the sunlight and plant a seed in it, the seed will grow like crazy. Or if you do the same thing but put it in a damp, dark place, mushrooms will grow in it. And then if you eat the mushrooms, you may see stars. Also, if you really want to see a lot of it, take the sheet off your bed, shake it hard in a dark room, and then turn on a beamed flashlight. There you are, like the little snowman in the round glass ball on the mantle at Grandma's house. London Bridge is falling down, and I am falling down, and the stars are falling down, and everything else is falling down to go around again someday. Scientists have pretty well established that we come from a stellar birthing room. We are the stuff of stars. Well, yeah, we are. And you see, it looks like there are two kinds of dirt or dust: the dust we walk on, the dust beneath us, and the dust that comes from up there, from the comets that fly in from outer space. But actually, there's no difference between them. They are all the dust of stars, the embers left of dying suns. So if anyone ever asks you, where do you come from? Tell them I come from the stars. We are literally stardust. Or if anyone wants to meet beings from outer space, well, we are originally. There's a Jewish saying that goes, every person should have two pockets. In one pocket, carry the words, I am ashes and dust. In the other pocket, carry the words, for me, the universe was created. The only thing I would add is that those are not opposite things. It's not ashes and dust versus, for me, the universe was created. Ashes and dust are not lowly. I mean, they are. They are lowly, but lowly is good. We are dust and deity, both flowing through each other. And neither pride nor humility are inherently virtues or vices. If you are good at something, or if you're proud of an ability you have, you don't have to pretend you're not in order to look humble. You should be honest. True humility is not thinking you are more than you are, but it's not thinking you are less than you are either. It's just being honest about who you are. And pride in your good qualities or in your abilities is perfectly fine as long as you don't use them to lord it over other people. As Will Rogers once put it, we are all ignorant, but on different subjects. So you can feel good about your good qualities and your past accomplishments and your promising future. Just remember that a lot of other people helped you become who you are. You had opportunities that others didn't. So your pride should be tempered with gratitude, which will lead you directly to humility. Or to look at it another way, consider the story of Cinderella, the oldest fairy tale in the world, as far as they know. Incidentally, this comes in under the heading of little known and less cared about facts. But it comes from China, and one of the pieces of evidence for it is that the slipper, the reason they had trouble fitting it on people's feet is that beauty in China was considered to have small feet. So Cinderella had the smallest feet, and that's why the slipper only fit her. And in China, I even saw one person in China when I visited there in 1984. My guide pointed out, she said, see the woman hobbling over there? She said she's someone who had her feet bound when she was a child. Anyway, little known and less cared about, but consider the story of Cinderella. Cinderella is Italian for cinder maid or cinder girl, the girl who cleans out the cinders from the fireplace, the ash lady. Now in the story, Cinderella eventually marries her prince and goes to live in the palace. But the story calls her Cinder Girl to show how lowly she started out. And what I would say is that we are all Cinderellas or Cinderfellas. That is, each of us is a perfect ash. We are dust people, we are earth people, we are grounded people. But this is not something to escape. We live in the palace already. Each of us is a beautiful speck of insignificant dust, but dust that can think and feel and love. Divine dirt, God sod, a great way to be. Do we have a little time for congregational response, or shall we?
Hello? I know a poem that's very similar to what you were talking about, Stardust stuff. It's called 93% Stardust. And you can look it up if you want, but it has the same idea in it. I'll just quote one part of it.
All right.
93% Stardust with souls made of flames. We are all just stars with people names.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, I figured I'd bring that up since it was similar to it.
You selling us this? Very
Yep.
good. All right.
But it's a good poem, 93% Stardust.
Nice. Anyone else?
I don't know if I'm the only one that thought about this, but when you're talking about meteorites and comets and stuff, first thing I thought of, like crashing down to Earth, first thing I thought of was Sputnik.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, I know that was a satellite, but I mean, especially I thought that was kind of coincidental that it just happened right there.
Yeah.
On 8th Street, right?
Yeah. 8th and Park.
Is that right?
Yes, right. 8th and Park.
Oh, how
There's a
funny.
Blocks over.
There's a little thing right in the middle of the road.
Oh my gosh.
And
Another good reason to come here.
It's right by the road by the Rahr West Art Museum.
How cool. How cool.
we went there last year.
I remember I was in elementary school and hearing about it.
Yeah, they have a replica of the piece that fell inside the museum.
Ah, Oh, of course. Well, great. Is that right?
Kathy, give Kathy the microphone.
Ash Wednesday and so on, just want to remind everybody that there's another important thing happening on Tuesday.
Yes.
Whatever your inclination, voting is not a spectator sport, so I encourage everybody, whatever your inclination, to be sure and vote on Tuesday.
Please. Yeah, this primary is extremely important. It's even been written about in the New York Times. Yeah, that because it goes to the top two people, and since it's a nonpartisan race, there are two liberals and two conservatives, but you could get two liberals or two conservatives, and if you do, you will have already changed the direction, no matter who was voted in the end. So it's really important to vote in the primary. All right.
Any other comments? Okay.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. Our closing words are from an old issue of Proceedings, a magazine of the Naval Institute, written by Frank Koch, who describes his own experience with too much pride making someone blind. 2 battleships assigned to the training squadron had been at sea on maneuvers in heavy weather for several days. I was serving on the lead battleship, and I was on watch on the bridge as night fell. The visibility was poor with patchy fog, so the captain remained on the bridge, keeping an eye on all activities. Shortly after dark, the lookout on the wing of the bridge reported, "Light, light bearing on the starboard bow." "Is it steady or moving astern?" the captain called out. Lookout replied, "Steady, Captain," which meant we were on a dangerous collision course with that ship. So the captain called to the signalman, "Signal that ship. We are on a collision course. Advise you change course 20 degrees. Back came a signal. "Advisable for you to change course 20 degrees. The captain said, "Send. I'm a captain. Change your course 20 degrees. The reply was, I'm a seaman, second class. You had better change course 20 degrees. By that time, the captain was furious. He spat out, send, I'm a battleship, change course 20 degrees. And back came the flashing light, I'm a lighthouse. We changed course. May we all keep two pockets, one that says, I am dust and ashes, one that says, for me the universe was created, so we can sail with pride while missing the lighthouses in our way. Would you join in singing Shalom? Thank you. Let us sing our closing anthem, Shalom, my friends. Shalom, my friends, shalom, my friends, shalom, shalom, till we meet again, till we meet again, shalom, shalom. Shall we try it as a round? This will be the first half. Shalom, my friends, shalom, my friends, shalom, my friends, shalom, my friends, shalom, shalom, till we meet again, till we meet again, shalom, shalom.